Hello and welcome to another episode of Illinois Waterfowl. My name is Lucas, and today's topic is one that we're really excited to show you guys, and it's about snow goose decoys and the wide variety of snow goose decoys that are out there on the market today. Now, out of all waterfowl hunting decoys, snow goose hunting has by far the most wide variety of decoys out there. And I could see if you were coming into the sport, it'd be a little overwhelming of what kind of decoys to buy. What do I need, what my budget and my space can accommodate. Now, I'm going to try to narrow it down for you guys as best I can today, because I hunt over a permanent spread, which is a wide variety of everything we put in the spread. We got everything that's white under the sun out in the spread. We hunt over 2,500, and we hunt them all season. They stay out there all season, so I'd like to think that I could give a pretty good decoy review on what works, what's the cheapest, what's the best, things like that. So the first one that I use, and a lot of people don't use it, is the silhouette decoy. A lot of people don't use it for the simple fact that they say, well, snow geese work from a vertical coming straight down, so when they get above them they can't see them. Well, the good thing about this is you can put out 400 or 500 of these in a matter of 20 minutes. And if you put out 400 or 500 of these in a spread, they will see a good majority of them, regardless of where they're at in the sky. They will see some at some point, and they will disappear, and then they'll reappear, making like geese moving. One thing I will say about these, in particular, they're corrugated plastic. If I was going to be using corrugated plastic silhouettes like this, I would make sure that I painted them to get rid of the glare. Now, I haven't painted these yet. I just bought these off of a guy, and I'll be doing a DIY project on painting these. But I would definitely paint these to get rid of the glare on them, because corrugated plastic pure has a very bad glare on it. That might mess with the birds, it may not, but I want to put every out I can in my favor, so I'm going to paint all of these a flat white. Yeah, these are silhouette decoys, and I think that in every spread, permanent spread, mobile spread, hunting the X, these decoys have a purpose. You know, when geese are coming on their final approach, they do see all these decoys. I'm a true believer in silhouettes. They're cheap, they take up no space, and they look like a snow goose. I think it's a win-win. Another thing, if you're hunting permanent spreads, the decoy that brings up the bulk of our spread is the green headgear 5/8 shell. You can buy these for $100 a dozen off of the Facebook buy-sell trade sites, or you can buy them brand new for $160, $170 a dozen, something like that. I buy all mine new. Or used, I'm sorry. And we got roughly 800 of these. We like them a lot. There's a lot of pros to them, there's a lot of cons to them. One of the pros to them is they move in little to no wind. They move a lot. Another pro to them is they look like full bodies from the side and from the top, but they're a shell, so they take up less space. You can stack these, they stack really good, and you can fit 2,000 of these in a 6x12 trailer. But we leave the heads on them, and the reason why, the more often you take the heads off of these decoys, the more likely it is to damage the inside of the decoy. It's not made the best, so when you put the head on and take it off a whole bunch, it kind of snaps the plastic. But if you leave the head on, you have absolutely no problems. Like, we have not had very many. But if you take the heads off, also, every morning you'll have to have one guy strictly put on heads on the decoys. So you're down one guy putting stuff out just because of the heads. So we leave all the heads on. You can fit around 800 or 900 in a 6x12 trailer. Doing it that way. These are good decoys. One thing that was bad was about the stake. Now, this stake had a spring on top of it. They said it added motion to it. Didn't really help much. It didn't really move for us anyway. But if you leave that spring on there and you get a good strong wind, your decoys will fall off the stake. Every one of them. I brought 500 of these. And I came back out the next day after a windstorm. Almost every one of them was off the stake because that spring was on there and didn't give any room for it to wiggle wobble. So I took all the springs off and left it down to just that washer like that. Had zero problems. Hadn't had any decoy fall off there yet. It was simple and it works. Also, another thing you can do with the hole in the back of the decoy, drill it out to about 3/8 size, and it makes it to where you can easily find it in the dark, the hole, and it makes more motion. It makes it easier for it to move around, which these really dance in wind. Up 10-15 miles an hour, these really dance. So these are a really good addition if you're hunting a permanent spread. I would not use these on a mobile spread. On a mobile spread, these would be kind of a pain to pick up and put out every single day. I would not recommend that. These are more of a permanent spread, but they definitely have their purpose there. Along the same lines is full bodies. We have 300 or 400 of these that we put out in our permanent spreads. These are the green headgear one-piece full bodies. About as real looking as it gets. We usually put these around our kill holes, our little openings, our little landing zones, if you will, in our spread. The reason being, we want these to be the last decoys that the geese see when they're coming into our spread. Just adds a little bit of realism to it, you know, gives them a little confidence to land seeing a good looking decoy. I don't think you need to have all ultra realistic decoys, but if you do have any, I would definitely put them around where you want the geese to land or where you want them to finish. I think that does help. But full bodies, you know, a lot of people say, yo, you need full bodies to kill snow geese. That's just not the case. You can kill snow geese over socks, silhouettes, full bodies, everything. But I'd say if you're hunting leading edge adults, full bodies probably does help. Or if you're hunting like a cloudy, no wind day where the birds can really see and they're hanging up a lot and they get to circle around and glide around and watch your spread a little more and pick you apart, I definitely think full bodies give you a little bit more of an edge than all the other decoys in that aspect. But they also take up a lot of space and they're expensive, obviously. So if you're a guy that you got a whole bunch of buddies and money's not an option, and you want to use these for a whole spread, by all means, this is the best way you could go. It doesn't get any more real than this. But anyway, along the lines of now of a mobile spread, and all around, in my opinion, the best decoy on the market is a sock decoy. And I'm not saying the silo socks are the best. I've seen the dive bombs. The dive bombs look really good, and I might be trying them too. But as far as what I've tried, I really like the silo socks. They look like a full body from up top if there's wind. They have a really small stake that goes in the ground really easily. I have not found ground that this stake has not went into. It goes into any ground. Whereas your full body stakes will be hard to get into the ground. If you're hunting the X, or you're in a really mobile spread, these are the ones you want. You can get these for $40 a dozen, these silo socks. These economies. You know, pay a little X on the back, you're good, done. Very good decoy. They got the drain holes in the butt, so the water drains out of it. You will get some ice build up in them if you're hunting a really cold day, like say you leave the decoys out the night before and ice is up, you will get ice in them, regardless if they got the drain holes in them or not. So there's pros and cons to all of it. You take care of these, they'll last you 5-10 seasons roughly. I've threw away very little of my silo socks, and I guarantee you this one right here in particular is probably 6 or 7 years old. But it's a good decoy nonetheless. So if you're hunting mobile or an X spread, use these. Now the only scenario where I would use full bodies if you're hunting the X is if you are hunting a cloudy, no wind day, and if you know they're adults using the field, you know, adult snow geese. I would use full bodies. I would use 300 or 400 of them. Or if it's sunny and windy, you can get away with using your socks on it. But use whatever you can afford is the most important thing. Don't think you have to go out and buy full bodies. There are lots of groups out there, guides even, who use all sock spreads, and they kill a lot of birds every year. It's easy to put them out. You can put out 1,000 socks. If you got 4 or 5 guys, hour and a half, 2 hours tops, you're done. It's just what you can afford and space. If you can't afford them and you don't have the space for them, there's no reason to get them. If you have no space and you're trying to just try out snow goose hunting to see how you like it, go with a sock route or go with a guide. Going with a guide is a good option too to see, you know, if you even like the sport. If you found out you like the sport and you don't have space, go with the socks. And this is another sock. This is the Skyflies. We just bought these this year. These are also like $140 or not $140, $40 a dozen. They're $40 a dozen, and I've never tried these out yet. They look a lot like a white rock, which I think they are a white rock, but they're just a lot cheaper. They also got the drain holes in them. The only thing bad about these is they got a big stake, like a full body stake. Probably gonna be hard to get them into frozen ground or ground that's naturally hard. You know, they might be a little bit more difficult. But these are a good decoy too, from what I've seen. I bought 100 of these to test them out this year. So I can't really give a big review on these yet, other than they really store up easy. They fold down into absolutely nothing. That's one really big pro to them. Over any other decoy I have no decoy that folds down that small. And they pop out really easy. Done. Set it up. It's a really good decoy. We're going to be trying these out this year, and if we like them, we're going to be filling up majority of our spread with these. But right now, majority of our spread is full bodies and 5/8 shells, and a mixed match of socks and silhouettes after that. So, just another recap. If you're going to be running socks, probably better off if you had a mobile spread or a X spread. You can leave these out all season, and we do. We leave them out all season long, and we have very little problems, but they're not really designed for that. If you want to maximize the life you're going to get out of your investment, don't leave them out for an extended period of time, especially in the ice, snow, all that stuff. It's hard on them. They're just Tyveks, you know, there's not much to them. But yeah, definitely have their place in the snow goose world. Definitely the best decoy as far as snow goose hunting is socks. So socks for hunting the X and hunting mobile spreads and permanent spreads, shells, silhouettes, stuff like that is pretty much the mainstay of what I would do. As far as flyers go, I've tried almost all the flyers that are out there, and the best one I have found is the first one I ever tried was the Silosock Flapper. These are $25 a piece, and they have very realistic flapping. In little to no wind, they will flap their wings. And you get back from your spread and look at them, they will actually look like real birds hovering over your decoys. We use these on rotaries, and we leave them stationary in the field, just sitting in the ground. One thing we do not do, it comes with 2 stakes. We take one of the stakes off and put them close to the ground. We don't like our decoys sticking up high, just like we don't like our mojos sticking up high either. Just kind of a pet peeve that our group has. Also, these decoys are very fragile, so you have to take good care of them. You can't just manhunt them around. They're still Tyveks and plastic. But for $25 a piece, this decoy in particular right here, I probably have for 5 years, and it looks relatively new. It's got a little dirt on it, but it looks relatively new. We have about 15 or 20 of these. If you're a guy just starting out, you could get 2 to 4 of these and be just fine. You know, hunting over 1,000 decoys. But we hunt over 2,500 almost, so we like to have a lot of these out and make it look a little more realistic. If it is not windy, I would not use these. I would not set them up. They would look exactly like he looks right here in this garage. There's no wind in this garage, and he's sitting still. It does not look right out in the field. If there's no wind at all, put it down. Don't use it. Or put it on a Vortec. We put ours on a Vortec when it's no wind. But as far as flyers, I would definitely use these over any other sock or any other flyer on the market. I would use the Silosock Flappers. We tried the Deadlies and we tried the Real Wings. The Deadlies do not move in the wind. They look good, but they just don't have any movement, and that's what's crucial with flyers, is having movement. And the worst possible flyer on the market is the Real Wing. The Real Wing, they have absolutely no movement. It takes like 30 or 40 mile-an-hour wind gust to put them up in the air, even the ultralight ones. So we don't use them, and I don't think the birds like them too much. We've used them 5 to 10 times, I bet, in the last 6-7 years, and every time we ended up pulling it after the first flock came by. They either hover and get right down next to it and leave, or they don't pay our spread any attention at all and just leave. Whereas if we just had the regular flappers up, they'll come right in, no problem. So that's where I would go on flyers, is keep them low to the ground. My opinion, Silosock Flappers, the best ones on the market as of right now. Yeah, I've seen the clones out there, those are nice too, but I think they're like $180 to $200 a piece. That's just a little too rich for my blood for a snow goose flapper. You know, it's one of them things that if it breaks, you know what happens, then you're out all that money. So it's like, there's already enough money in snow goose hunting. I'm not going to spend $200 for a single flapper. You know. So as far as decoys goes, that pretty much covers decoys as far as mobile spreads, hunting the X, hunting permanent spreads. As far as sound, and this is other than getting the right field and having a decent amount of decoys out, because even if you're hunting the X, hunting mobile spread, or hunting permanent spread, you have got to have a reasonable amount of decoys. If I'm hunting a permanent spread in Illinois, I would not want to be hunting with anything less than 1,000 decoys, because in Illinois everybody hunts traffic. There is no roost, there is no X field, more or less. If birds are in a field, they'll be sitting there for an hour and then they move on north. You can't pattern birds in Illinois very well, at least in my area. So what we do is we hunt trafficking birds. We find a field underneath their traffic corridor, and then we try running traffic on them and pulling them down out of the bigger flocks. And usually we have pretty good success doing it. You know, we pull singles, pairs, small bunches down all day doing that. So as far as what's most important is getting good numbers, getting in the right field, and third is your sound. Just like duck calling, you can overcall on snow geese and blow them out of there. Most of the time, when snow geese, everybody's seen it. When snow geese get working your spread and they get within 80 yards, they get to that 80-yard mark and they start doing this and start leaving, that means one of two things. One, they've either seen you or you've blew them out with your e-collar. And if you're laying in white suits like we did this year, most of the season, if you're laying in white suits and you got decoys over the top of you and you're totally hidden, got face mask on and everything, it's pretty much going to tell you that it's your sound is too loud. So the best thing what we do is we will, on the downwind side, we will put an e-collar. On the very extreme downwind side of our spread, we will put an e-collar. On the low frequency of a feeding growl or like a feeding murmur or single peeps, and once the geese get to that lower end of the spread, a lot of times if you don't have an e-collar down there, we've tested this, if you don't have an e-collar down there, see our spread is 500 yards long roughly, if you don't have an e-collar down there, there's absolutely hardly any sound on the one end of the spread, and that's a big red flag to birds who are hunted almost most of the season. Most of the year, I mean, you know, from August up in Canada to May up in Canada. You know, these birds are being hunted most of the year. So you have very little room for error with them. I like to stack the cards in my deck as much as possible. But if you put all of your speakers on the upwind side, and you have nothing on the downwind side, those birds will get to the downwind side of your spread, especially if you're hunting a traffic field. The birds haven't been there before, they're already going to be weary as it is. So they'll get to that downwind side and they'll hear absolutely nothing. Very faint snow goose sounds from the upwind side. And that's it. They'll leave. That's not normal. When you got birds on the ground, they're all making noise regardless on their upwind or the downwind side. So we try to cover the downwind and the upwind side. The downwind side will have it on a low volume, and the upwind side, the farther we get up to the upwind side, we will have it louder. We will still, as the birds are really high, 2,000 or 3,000 feet up in the air, we will have it at max volume, trying to get their attention, flagging, everything, vortex going, you name it. But as they get closer and they start circling us, we will turn it down as they come down. If you can hear the birds above your collar, turn it up one notch. If you can hear the collar above the birds, turn it down one notch. Try to stay the same volume of the birds when they're coming in. Try not to blow them out. If you do that, you will never blow birds out of your spread. Always keep it just right the same volume with the birds when they're coming down, because you'll hear them. They're very vocal birds, snow geese. So if you can hear them over your collar, turn it up a couple notches. If you can't hear them over the collar, turn it down. You know, just try to get the same volume as them, and you'll never blow them out, ever. But when they're real high, always turn it up as loud as you can, try and get their attention, because these are trafficking birds. You know, they're going somewhere else. You're trying to get their attention and coax them down. But like I say, if you're hunting the X, you could probably get away with turning it down low, you know, just keeping it low and natural. But as they get closer, turn the volume down. If you leave the volume all the way up, 9 times out of 10 birds will circle you, and they'll get down to the 80 to 100 yard range, and they will leave, because you blew them out of there is what you've done. Just like when you're duck calling. The best conservation tool is a call. It will save every bird in the sky. If you overcall, you will scare every bird. You might as well shot at them. So a little tip is just keep the volume. Be paranoid about your volume, more or less. Don't be too loud, but don't be too soft. If you're not loud enough, they can't hear you. you're too loud, you'll blow them out of there. So try to get to the same volume the birds are. Turn it down a little bit if you can hear the birds, turn it back up. It's just a little tip that we've learned. And if there's no wind, try to cover around where you're sitting at, because wherever you got the loudest sound, the birds will keen in on that sound, and they will hone in on that, and they will come to that sound. So try to keep your loud Ecollar around where you're hunting at and in front of your landing zone where you're hunting. But always have sound on your downwind side, always, because the birds, that's where they're approaching from. That's their landing strip. They're coming in, going into that. So if you have no sound down there and they're used to there being birds on the ground making noise right there, that's a red flag. They're not going to come in. So that's just some little tips that we've learned over the years. And with flyers, some days the flyers work, some days the flyers don't. We take them down, we put them back up. We'll take them down and put them back up 4 or 5 times in one day. So that's just stuff you got to play with a little bit. Play with your sound. Play with where you got your decoys set up. You know, rule of thumb is, you know, a lot of people like setting the donut spread or the X. We tried the X this year and it worked okay. I think next year we're just going to try the big feeding blob, big like loose rectangle with a landing zone on each end, depending on the wind. But definitely have a landing zone also with snow geese, because they will really keen in on that landing zone, and that'll help direct the birds and give them something to work over and put that right in front of you so you can have easy shots in front of you. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it as far as snow goose hunting tips that we have for right now. We're going to have a lot of snow goose hunting content coming out this year on hunts that will be going on. We'll be dragging you guys along with us, letting you guys watch them. Hopefully it turns out good like it did this year. It was an excellent year this year. But if anybody has any questions on what snow goose decoys to use, what e-collars are the best, we actually use the Squawk box, and we actually really like that collar. It's a little bit more expensive collar, but we've had hardly any problems with it. It's a good collar. You can make your own collars for $100. You know, you can buy all the parts off Amazon or whatever. Yeah, basically, if anybody has any questions on what kind of decoys to use in their spreads, their particular situation, just let us know. We'll be glad to answer them for you guys. Again, my name is Lucas, and this is Illinois Waterfowl, and thanks for watching.